We haven't spoken with Sal in weeks, it feels like. He joins us on the Western Hotline live from Indianapolis. Sal, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, it wasn't a helicopter. I was on a cruise ship for a little while. And then it was really kind of crazy because the weather was coming into New York right when we came back on the cruise ship, right? Like we left out of the Brooklyn cruise port. So that was part of the reason why we left and did it that way. But anyway, guys, so I was supposed to fly to Indianapolis on Sunday late morning, but that's right when the blizzard was going to start hitting. So I had to make a decision, and I told Yana, I said, if you drop me off in Newark and you guys drive back to Buffalo, I might get stuck in Newark. I don't know. So we actually, I drove back during the gold medal game, actually. Listened to the game mostly on the radio, and then we pulled over and watched overtime, which was incredible. Obviously, I'm there with Max, my 12-year-old hockey-playing son. How cool. It was awesome to enjoy that experience. And then flew here to Indy yesterday morning, and without a hitch, really, from Buffalo. And what's crazy is that cruise ship was supposed to leave back out because it's going on the same route, and they were still in New York. The cruise ship never left as of yesterday when they were supposed to. So anyway, I'm thinking about you with the open there and the chopper and going around and doing all that. Man, the travel around the Northeast right now, we have a few of our colleagues I know nationally and locally who are not going to be here today as they were scheduled.
Was it warm enough to be like out on the deck of the cruise ship? Because I know even in like Florida today, it's like 50 degrees.
It's a good question, Joe. So when we left, we knew this would happen. We had 2 days at sea where you basically stay inside, but you get warmer and warmer as you go down south, obviously. Right. Once we got to about maybe the South Carolina, Georgia area,
right.
It started to get warmer. And then we actually had decent weather in Florida. It wasn't like really hot, but it was warmer there. And then the Bahamas, went to the Bahamas too. It was in the 70s, and they had not been in the 70s in quite a while. And now they're back in like the 50s this week.
Right.
So we kind of threaded the needle a little bit there, I guess.
What's Indy like?
Indy is cold, like really cold. This morning it's in the teens. I know it's cold in Buffalo. Last night I checked. I was outside last night and I was walking back to my hotel room after dinner and I said, it is cold out. I checked. It was 23 degrees. I think Buffalo was a little bit colder, but it felt really biting. You know, that biting cold, in the middle of the city there. So that's what it felt like. But you guys know, I don't know, have you guys ever spent time in Indy? You ever been here?
No.
I've never been.
It is, I will always say, it's got more steakhouses than any place in the country, like per capita, unbelievable amount of steakhouses. Great restaurant city, great convention city. It's got the largest convention center you'll ever see in your life. Like, the NFL Combine is so huge, and yet it takes up maybe a fifth of the convention center.
Wow.
Because it's so big, and it just spreads for blocks and blocks, and there's always different conventions going on. And today, most of the work gets started today because that's when we're going to hear from GMs and head coaches. I believe I think Raiders, but I can't remember exactly who, but somebody gets going at 10 a.m. and that will kick everything off. And then throughout the day, sporadically, we'll hear from people. And then at 2 o'clock in that hour, we'll hear from Brandon Beane and Joe Brady.
Okay, so Brandon Beane and Joe Brady both today. And interviews are underway with these teams, right? Like, Sal, I've been looking at the combine schedule. Defensive linemen, linebackers going first when they meet with the media, and then they get asked who they've talked to and all that sort of stuff, right? Like, so we'll find out. It seems to me, Sal, to be like the first draft board that we can put together. We all have ideas of what they might need. The combine's a good way to find out who they're talking to, which is a good look into who they want more information on.
Yeah, and you're right about that, Jeremy, which is the one question of it takes up so much time, but I get it. Like there's no great way to do it, but like a prospect stands up there. Now that will happen later this week. We won't hear from the prospects till a bit later, a lot of them, but they're doing their testing and their interviews. I'm sorry, their interviews with the teams right now, and then they'll meet with the media. But when they stand up at the podium, you'll just get people from local media shouting, "Did you meet with the Jets? Did you meet with the Bills? Did you meet with the Raiders?" And they try to answer those, and they're usually pretty good about it. But it takes up quite a bit of time, outside of whatever else you want to ask them. But yeah, that's when you generally find out because the team doesn't release that information.
You also, the team doesn't. I almost wondered if it would be better if they did, because you do put the prospects in a tough spot, and then they're asked stuff like, "Oh, what would it be like? Do you think to play with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce?" And then they talk about that. Like we have from the combine, however many years ago, JSN talking about what it would be like to play with Allen and Diggs. Like these guys are kind of put in this position to help everyone dream of them playing for their team, no matter who they are, what position they play. It's got to be tough for these athletes to kind of, to just constantly answer that question.
I'll go a step further. Even remember last year, I think it was TJ Sanders who got a little gruff from Bills fans because somebody unearthed the video of him like saying Lamar Jackson was the best quarterback in the league. It was him, maybe it was Deion Walker, TJ Sanders, I can't remember. But yeah, those are the kinds of things you do. But well, when you're meeting with that team and you're excited to maybe, have that guy as your teammate, you're going to say things like that. So those things happen. And then the players do meet with the teams, and you guys remember the video of the Bills meeting with Kyrie Elam a couple years ago, right? And how that went, and him bringing out the notebook and things like that. You'll get some of that, but we don't know exactly who they meet, the full list, but we do know they get 45 interviews. They get 45 interviews that they can do while they're here. And I've been told, guys, it's kind of fascinating how it works. Like, I've been told by front office executives before that it's not just the interview. Like, they will literally, and people can think what they want about this stuff, but like they'll watch everything about the prospect without the prospect realizing they're watching. For example, someone posted up maybe in the hotel lobby when the interview is supposed to take place. When does the prospect get there? Who are they hanging out with? What are they doing? Are they there? If something happens, do they text timely enough? Like all these little things that you don't think about that they're thinking about because they're like, hey, if they're going to be a professional in our building and we're going to, rely on them to be to practice and be with the right people, we want to make sure. So I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but this is where it starts with that.
Sal Capaccio joining us on the Western Hotline. Sal, of course, the Combine is about the draft, and this is also a time where we get franchise tags and rumors start to pop up because teams are all collected in Indianapolis, and maybe agents are talking to teams or agents are talking to agents. I wonder what you think about our Twitter poll we have up today, but it's about free agency. The legal tampering period in the NFL starts in less than 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks from yesterday. And I asked, do you want the Bills to, and do you think the Bills will have a new second highest paid player, which would come in ahead of Deion Dawkins. Deion Dawkins is their second highest paid player, like roughly $20 million per year. And if they're going to go hunting anybody of true significance in free agency, it might take that number, right? Like Mike Evans, if you want that, if you want Alec Pierce, even if they want to trade for a Max Crosby, A.J. Brown, like up and down the list. Do you think this is an offseason where they will decide that they need a bigger kind of fish to pull into the boat?
So I'm wondering, wouldn't like Joey Bosa have been this last year, or was Deion ahead of him? I'm looking.
Way above.
Bosa was not $20 million a year. No,
he was like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what it was? He signed $20 million, but it was spread because of the void years.
Yeah,
that's what it was. He got that money.
No, I think his cap last year was like 7, and this year it's 7.
Yeah, I'm talking not total value, but average annual value of 20 or more.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be all for it. I mean, you go do that. That means you're taking a big swing. Why not? I mean, this team needs to do that. And without knowing who that is, we could all quibble at the time and go, well, that guy's not worth it. I totally get that. But if you go out there and you sign a guy like that, that means that the Bills are trying to add, what we've all said they need to add, which is high-end talent. That's what's held this team back. Not having studs, not having superstars other than Josh Allen. I think that's been kind of the refrain of the last several years. And if you go out and get a guy like that, then they believe they're adding more elite talent to this team. So without knowing who the player is, sure, I'd be all for that. Now, that would certainly hurt your depth. It would hurt your ability to have guys down the bottom of the roster. But this team has pretty much operated from the bottom up, I think, in a lot of ways when it comes to building the roster. And it's allowed a lot of sustained success. There's no doubt about that. But I think what's held them back when they've gotten those critical moments is having those couple of players that might be difference makers make those plays.
One thing, if you do that, and you just kind of alluded to it, like your depth will be tested if you go and spend. They have limited resources, right? Like they have less cap space than a lot of teams in the league. So if they do that, then they can't go sign a bunch of middle tier guys in the offseason. Do they have a lot of internal answers to you, Sal, and replacing guys that are probably going to be walking out the door, like at safety, at linebacker? Like we'll, I'm sure, talk about like Alec Anderson and Van Pran Granger on the offensive line. Like these holes that they might have on the roster, or these places they need to change. How many internal answers do you think they have of guys that could elevate to starting positions?
Well, that's a good question. I guess the first thing I would have to know, Joe, and we don't totally know this yet, is what the defense is going to look like, because then we need to know, who the starters are there. So let's just say, they're not going to have Matt Milano. Well, that's a different position this year, right? Because you do have Terrell Bernard, who's going to play inside linebacker in a 3-4, predominantly if we're going to think about the traditional sense of what a 3-4 would look like. He's going to play there. Who's next to him? Is that Dorian Williams? That's a question right there of what you're asking. Do they have that guy? Yeah, I think they have that guy on the roster. I think the question is, like, how does that guy fit into the new defense? But he's probably right there. I think Tre'Davious White is a free agent, but you could say Max Harrison could step right there. I think they do have to find somebody at safety. They do have Taylor Rapp on the roster. As of this moment, though, I would think you'd probably move on from Taylor Rapp. You'd save over $3 million. You find a new safety. I think at the offensive line spot is where you're really looking at this, and we know that Alec Anderson has re-signed. We know that, Fedarian Mathis re-signed on the defensive line, but we know that Connor McGovern and David Edwards are both free agents. That's the one guy that can step in. I think you do have Cedric Van Pran Granger, and we've talked about him, but I don't know how much confidence you have to just go 2 for 2 right there. You probably have to go out and at least look for somebody. But Joe, I wouldn't doubt it if they feel that they have the answers in-house in those 2 positions. I mean, it could be tricky, and we could get 3 weeks into the year, and they're like, well, they misevaluated, but that's kind of the thing you have to do this time of year is figure if you have that.
To the depth point, Alec Anderson, Fedarian Mathis, these guys both are back, right, Sal? These are role players. And for Fedarian Mathis, I saw Chris Trapasso point out on Twitter yesterday, he's a former second-round pick, and that this new defense might actually be something he fits into a little bit better in terms of how he played at Alabama. He might be have some time at the nose for them.
100%. Yeah, guys, he was the 47th overall pick just 4 years ago. I mean, the guy, he played, Alabama for 4 years? Comes into the NFL, 47th overall pick. He's got pedigree. I actually like the way he played when he had limited time last year. He seemed athletic for a big guy. He was able to move down the line. Eric Wood said a lot of good things rewatching, during the games as the analyst on the broadcast with us a few times. And I agree too. And Eric Turner said the same thing from Cover One, and I do some stuff with him, and he really likes his fit in this defense. So I think what happened here was, look, I mean, he was going to be a free agent, and the Bills have 20 plus free agents. Maybe there's less now coming up, and I think Jim Leonard probably walked into some meetings, watched some film, and that's a guy he looked at and said, hey, this guy can play. He can fit in my defense. I like this guy. Let's try to keep him. So you sign him to a 1-year deal. He's back in Buffalo, which is great. And that can help out the defensive line. There's questions up front. Ed Oliver, Deion Walker, TJ Sanders, Dwayne Carter coming back from his injury. What does that look like? You add in Fedarian Mathis. They're still going to have to do some work up there, but you start to see that, okay, these are some of the guys they're going to roll with next year in this new look defense. What's it going to look like on the edge, though? Greg Rousseau, Michael Hoyt, obviously the injury, we know that. What are they going to do with A.J. Epinesa? He's scheduled to become a free agent. He's played pretty solid for this team. He hasn't been, an all-pro type of player, but he's played, meaningful snaps. He's done some nice things. Does he fit in this new defense? And then on the other side, I just think this is what Alec Anderson has been tracking towards. He's not going to be a role player anymore. I think he's going to be a starter. I think it's going to be at left guard. I can't see how they can keep David Edwards and or Connor McGovern. They're both going to make good salaries. Alec Anderson has played all over the offensive line since he came in this league, and I just think that they have groomed him to be the starter. This is why you have depth. This is why you draft and develop, to put a guy in after 3 years. And by the way, he was undrafted, but you put him in after 3 years, 4 years, and say, okay, it's your time now. You got to go do the job.
Could that be at center or guard, you think? Like almost so, if one of them were to leave, and almost regardless of which one, that he would be the next man up at both positions?
I'm not sure about that, Joe. It's a good question. I've thought about this because let's just say Edwards comes back. Okay, if Edwards leaves, I think Anderson is your starting left guard. Mm-hmm. You figure out center between what happens with McGovern and then Cedric Van Pran Granger. What if only McGovern leaves? It's probably a straight-up competition between Van Pran Granger and Alec Anderson, because the difference is Van Pran Granger can't play another position. Right. He only plays center. Whereas Alec Anderson, you could still have available to play around the offensive line. But if you're Alec Anderson, I got this question yesterday, by the way. It's a good question. I'll address it, which is, if you like Alec Anderson that much, why just sign him to a 1-year deal? And the answer is, well, he was going to be a restricted free agent. So the Bills had to give him a minimum tender offer of about $3.5 million a year. They actually signed him to less money than that to make sure that, but he's getting 1.8 guaranteed. Now, part of the issue, part of the reasoning would be you just do this now, you get it done and over with. He knows he's going to be the guy, but maybe he said, hey, I don't want to sign a 2-year, 3-year deal. I'm going to start, play 17 games and make good money next year as a free agent, right? Like he has that ability to do that. So I think you can see what's happening here, which is I think both sides realize he has an opportunity to be a starter next year, for 17 games, and then he's going to try to parlay that maybe into being a free agent and see where it takes him.
Sal Capaccio joining us on the Western Hotline from Indianapolis, where the Combine gets rolling. Sal, the Combine itself is, zoom out and league stuff, and you're talking to other people around the league. What's the chatter there? Like, is it free agency? Is it dominoes to fall? Is it about this draft, which many are saying it's just not that impressive of a draft, whatever reason that might be. Sometimes that comes down to like the quarterback sexiness factor, whatever, like how many there are in the first round. Like what is the chatter around there this week so far?
I think the chatter has been what's going to happen with some of these bigger names we've been hearing about. Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson, Tua, Kyler Murray. Like this is not a year where there's a total flux in quarterbacks, but we could get some names added to the mix, and it appears as though that's going to be the case. And guys, honestly, like Malik Willis is the number one free agent quarterback. Mm-hmm. And no disrespect to Malik Willis, but in most free agent years, he's not the number one quarterback, right? This guy is going to be he's going to be kind of coveted. You think he could be?
Well, you don't often get free agent quarterbacks. That's the thing,
right?
Well, that's true.
It's usually Daniel Jones or.
I think you're both right to some extent. Like I don't think you often get like the star level quarterback that makes it to free agency. But also like
Kirk Cousins.
I think Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I would say you usually get a guy more experienced than a guy like this. Like Willis has attempted 150 passes in his career.
They've been really good.
I mean, they have been pretty good.
Yeah, that's right. I think about a Cousins. I think about a Sam Darnold. Right
there, you go.
Like.
Can I make a quick case for Malik Willis? Just a very quick case for him.
Well, first of all, I really do like Malik Willis,
Yeah.
but I just think that's a kind of an interesting name to have the top of the leaderboard here.
Sure.
I just think like the rebirths, like Baker and Darnold going kind of all the way down to Boston and coming back. Malik Willis didn't go through that, but he was at one point thought to be a first-round pick. There's a ton of talent there, and it didn't happen, and he slips into, like the fourth round?
Third round, I think.
Third round.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if there's not a personnel guy out there who thought, like, we had him as a first-round pick that year and didn't take him, and then we saw him playing Green Bay. I don't think it's crazy at all to think that this guy could have a bright future.
No, I totally get that, and I think right now the conventional wisdom is he'll go to Miami because – their coach just came from Green Bay, so there's a connection there. He knows him, but we'll see because Kyler Murray, if they move on from him, word here is that Arizona would be very interested in him. But that just goes to show you the point of Malik Willis is going to be in a bit of demand here. But that's kind of been the storyline is, some of these names. Yeah, the draft itself, this isn't a top of the draft kind of real, oh my God, what's going to happen with some of these guys? We've come here to the Combine where there's like 10 guys, 7 guys. You're like, oh my God, where are these guys really going to go? That hasn't been the thing this year. I think it's more about what you said, Jeremy. There's a good draft class in a lot of ways for a lot of positions, right? And like I'm talking to the guy, somebody covers the Seattle Seahawks yesterday. I'm like, I know it's a weird question, but what do the Super Bowl champions have to do this offseason, right? Like what's their issue? He said, because of Charbonnet's injury, they're going to be in the running back market. And then he stopped. He goes, but it's a really good running back class, right? Mm-hmm. So that goes to your point of like, there's some depth here at some positions. Linebacker, that helps the Bills. I think it's a good linebacker class. But the talk this week has been pretty much, I think, about what's going to happen with some of these bigger names that we've been hearing about that could be released, that are still out there, trade candidates, people like that. And then, there's a little bit on the rules stuff. That started percolating yesterday. There's nothing on the tush push specifically, but there is an aiding the runner discussion going on, which could impact the tush push. Aiding the runner is more of what happens in the open field or in those big piles when people start pushing, when a guy goes and starts pulling the runner forward. We could get something that kind of curtails that a little bit. So that's going to be something discussed. Obviously, something with replay, a little bit of alignment stuff on the kickoffs, nothing sweeping like we've seen the last few years. So those are kind of the things that the league level is talking about.
Is it surprising that they're not going to be going after the tush push again? Because didn't that come close last year, and then now it's just not on the docket, really?
Yeah, it is, Joe, to me a little bit, but also it could be because they went so all in with it last year, and there was such a debate about it. And then really during the season last year, it didn't come up as much, right? I mean, because what happened last year in the season? Philly got called for some penalties. They weren't as good at it. It didn't kind of overtake the league. They didn't win the Super Bowl, running the tush push. And, so I think that probably backed off a little bit. And look, not for nothing, but you have a coach in Buffalo who's no longer on the competition committee, Sean McDermott, who was against the tush push, right? But he's not on the competition committee anymore. And I'm not saying he was the driving force, but sometimes you just get people on the committee that have a certain stance that kind of brings that out a little bit. So I do think it's a little surprising. However, I'm keeping that door open, Joe, of wait a minute, are they doing this in disguise of aiding the runner? And they're going to add this to it because aiding the runner, that would, be a tush push kind of thing,
right.
Or are we really not talking about it that much?
Yeah. Sal Capaccio from Indianapolis. All right, Sal, so we'll wait to hear from Brandon Beane and Joe Brady today, and we'll chat tomorrow.
Yeah, 2 p.m. We'll hear from Bean, and right after that will be Joe Brady. They'll both be at the podium. So we'll have that for everybody later today at WGR550.com.
Very good. Thanks, Sal.
You got it.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline from Indianapolis.